sing a cappella God Bless America with J.P. leading us.
Well, lucky.
God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with the light from above. From the mountains to the prairies to the oceans white with foam. God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless America, my home, sweet home. Here, give vocation, please.
Yes. Let's bow our heads and acknowledge our spiritual leader. As we come to the close of another successful Rotary year, we give thanks for the guidance given to our leaders of Rotary as we continue our mission of service above self. We also give thanks for giving each one of us the ability to carry out the mission of Rotary and for the bounty of food we have enjoyed this morning and those who have prepared it for us. Amen and amen.
Mike, why don't you introduce your guest this morning?
I don't think we have any speaker this morning, and Sal's going to introduce him when he does his speech. Right? Presentation. Not speech, right? It's a presentation.
Thank you. Very special thank you to all the 5 clubs that helped us on Zone 1 on Saturday. That's Allentown, Allentown West, Whitehall, Slatington, and Emmaus. We were at the Second Harvest Food Bank along with Gary Warbach and Gary Guthrie. Gary, would you like to say something about that?
Yeah, I just want to thank everyone that helped out on it. It's the first time that it's not Zone 1, by the way, Rick, it's Area 1. But
Oh, so that's
the
good.
zone's like all of the Eastern United States. But anyhow, we had people from all 5 clubs participating in it. We installed raised vegetable planting beds at the Second Harvest Food Bank, and it turned out great. It turned out a really great project. The idea was it's the first time we ever had a joint project. Instead of just our club, we had all 5 clubs participate, and it was a lot of good camaraderie. You know, we had fun. So thanks a lot to Rick and Don Bloss and Gary Guthrie. I forgot who else is there, but anyhow, from our club. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Gary. Thank you for getting that together and organizing all that. The topsoil will be coming soon. We'll probably ask for people to bring some wheelbarrows and shovels. We're going to need to put topsoil in those 25 beds soon. Don and I were at Whitehall Club on Tuesday, and one of the gentlemen who was at the thing on last Saturday went home, took the material from the box that we were opening up, the galvanized metal plant beds, and ordered 2 for his wife, because she'd been looking for them, and he was so excited and how easy they were to put together. All right. Sal, anything on the summer program?
Good morning, everyone. So, as we mentioned a couple weeks ago, the Feed the East Penn Students, FEEPS as we're calling it, is in progress, and we're looking for volunteers to help not serve them, but hand out the food. Our Rotary Club, along with Kiwanis Lionesses, are putting all this together. We have the first week, that's our responsibility, so there's 2 dates we need people to sign up for. Tuesday, June 25th, which is right around the corner, and Friday, June 28th, was our first week, and we're only doing it Tuesdays and Fridays. I only have 3 people right now for Tuesday, and Friday we have none so far. The times are open, I'm going to say 11 to 1:30, 2 o'clock roughly. You might be earlier than that. We just need you to help hand out the packages to the students. A couple of us will read to the students if needed. We're assuming it will be needed. And we're also collecting books. Thanks to Lexi, she brought in a book already, so if you have any children's books from K through 5, 6, somewhere in there, I'll collect them and we'll hand them out as well. So if you have any questions, just call my cell phone or text me, and sign up. A couple people have texted me with the dates, and I'll get back to you on that one. Joe.
Sal, the Friends of the Emmaus Public Library have plenty of children's books. So talk to Seal, talk to me, and
Great.
we can maybe do something. But we have our annual book sale in April, and we have tables full of children's books. I'm sure we have plenty of boxes full of children's books.
We'll take
in
them.
the back. So.
That'd be wonderful, thank you.
So,
New and used, they don't have to be new books. Any questions?
We're trying to help these children start a library in their own home because they don't have the resources to buy books, and neither do their parents. So any help would be great. Joe, thank you.
Yeah.
If you could just reach out to Sal.
Yeah, and I'll try to send out an email, and Mike was gonna put it in a trumpet as well, but see me or call me or text me, whatever, and we'll get together. But June 25th is the priority date right now.
Thank you, Sal.
Thank you.
President changeover breakfast is June 27th. That'll be in the morning. That same evening, June 27th, is a recognition dinner at Bear Creek. This is the last week for Jeff. Please tell him if you're going to be there. You don't have to pay him today, but tell him so he can tell Bear Creek how many people we're going to have. It's really important that he has a good number to go by.
Where'd he go?
I'm sorry.
He was just here. Where'd he go?
Who, Jeff?
Yeah, well, he's back there.
All right, and then Bill Urban has a little bit he wants to say about the foundation.
Good morning, everybody. Okay, we're in the last push for this foundation year, which ends on June 30th. I just learned, and I hadn't known this for years, in order to get them in for this year, the question is when do they have to be sent in? And I was told the 25th of June we have to send in whatever final contributions. If you have anything today, I'm here obviously. Next week I will not be here, so if you bring any checks or whatever, the E-rate table will be operational, but for those that want to bring in checks or whatever, you can turn them into the E-rate table. But I would just ask that anybody that's planning on getting something in before the end of this year, you really need to have it in here by next Thursday so we can get it in by the 25th. We're doing well, but we can always do better. So appreciate those that have already stepped up. For those that haven't, please seriously consider it, because as I've said many times, this is really what keeps the Rotary going throughout the entire world.
Thank you, Bill. Any other announcements from the floor? Lisa.
Good morning, everyone. I'm speaking on behalf of the Poker Run. You've all heard about it. It is going to be the last Saturday. So what does that mean to you? You say, oh, I don't even ride a motorcycle, or I don't even care about motorcycles. That's fine. If you know someone that does, just let them know that is going on, and they can certainly look it up from our Rotary website or see flyers around. There are, if you want to help out that day, of course, again, not riding, but if you do, that would be great. There's some sign-out sheets, and you can sign up for that. If you wanted to contribute, or knew of someone to contribute, there's different levels of sponsorship, and of course, we'll take anything. And if you don't want to do any of those, which is totally fine, at least tell a friend. And also, I've got 50-50 tickets. If anyone wants to see me at the end of the meeting, 1 ticket for $5, 3 for $10. But the best way that you can help us out is just share the information. Share the information. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Lisa. Mike.
2 reminders. First of all, we moved the planter row, bringing food from your garden, to next week. We found that they're not accepting it at the food bank or wherever. Tony's going to take it until next week. So next week, if you have something from your garden, just wash it up, put it in a bag, bring it. I always talk to Robert. We're going to put it in the refrigerator back here until Tony takes it to wherever it's going to go. So that will start next week. If you have any lettuce, I know I just got some peas the other day. You're not going to have much right now. We'll have more in July. Secondly, we moved putting the bricks in for the Rotarians at the Remembrance Garden to next week. Good call with the rain today. And I think Bob was still working on some of the family arrangements. So that'll be next week. We're going to head over to the Remembrance Garden right after the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Anyone else?
The Emmaus Library has the summer reading program. I know it's for the kids, but you know, if you've got grandchildren you'd like to bring them, there's a fun event at the Emmaus Library between 11 and 3 o'clock, I think. So there's a lot of things going on in the library.
Is that every day, Karen?
No, it's just Saturday. It's coming Saturday.
All right, thank you. All right, any other announcements? Hearing of none, we're going to move on to the new business. 2 weeks ago, you were sent out a little letter about a bylaw change. Everybody have a chance to look at it. If you hadn't, there's a copy on your table. And it's a new memberships category under section Article 5, and it's fees and dues. And it's East Penn School District employees and professionals. So it'll be the staff of East Penn School District and teachers, okay? Dues will be $120 a year to cover District, Rotary International, and Rotary Magazine charges to our club. Should either of the previous dues change, the dues for this category will also change. Members of this category will pay for meals consumed at meetings and functions. Current established application approval processes are to be followed. Members in this category will meet either by electronic version or in person at least monthly. Members in this category will conduct at least 2 service projects per year. Members are full members of the Advanced Rotary Club, and the liaison will be provided by the Advanced Rotary Club. All right. Any questions or concerns? Yes, sir.
So the dues for the coming year is 120.
For them, yes.
Okay, with the check or the money we have to give to Jim's
This is just for this particular group. This is just for this group.
I see, okay, all right.
Okay, so we're not changing our dues, and guys, I know it's a lot less expensive for this. And I get it, it's just an introductory fee for them, it'll probably be at least 2 years to get them up to at least 10 members. That's what we're working on.
Do we have a quorum present this week?
The bylaws say all members present at the meeting, we need 2/3 vote for it to pass. For bylaws.
Bylaws say 1/3 of the membership.
We have 33 people here. And we have 91 members. What?
2 of us can't vote.
Honorary members can't vote?
No, if we're 85, then no, it's an 85 no.
I don't know the bylaws that well, gentlemen. Does anybody know the bylaws that well?
There's a sergeant at arms.
Well, he doesn't either.
Well, he's supposed to.
Go and fire him up.
I'm one of those people as well. The 85 rule applies to me because I selected that.
Okay, so you are, Roger, you will 85 by any chance?
I am.
All right, so can you fire it up?
Fire him up.
Bylaws. All right, let's move on for the moment. Go ahead, Bill.
I don't have the bylaws in memory. It doesn't sound right that the rule of 85 members could not vote.
I don't think so
My
either, because they're paying
understanding is
members.
they're just not obligated to attend the meetings on a regular basis. I think they're still members of the club.
Let's let Steve or well,
Until the end of the meeting.
yeah, we can table it till the end of the meeting at this point. But just please look it up, Steve, after you're done eating. All right. Sorry about that. Good question. Don't know the answer. All right, so it's tabled down till the end of the meeting. All right, Don, you're up. You gonna do raffle first again? Why do you do that? Why can't I let you go first?
That gives me $30.
Rory, you're up for the raffle.
First number.
Need new glasses, Rory.
How about 805?
805.
Well, I'll tell you what happened. I can't accept that. I had 2 tickets were together and I tore the one up, that's the winner.
An honest man.
Thank you, Wilbur.
How about 796?
At least it stayed at the table.
They got all the stickers.
Jeff donated back.
Thank you, Jeff.
Oh, 777.
All right, we weren't even close, Steve.
Last number. 787.
Hey. Mike. Rory, you need new glasses, or you need new clean ones. Thank you very much. Don, you're up.
Donated back from the members of the group.
Donated back from the remembrance card.
Thank you, Rory. Thank you, Mike.
So we're getting to the end of the year, I'm close to my budget, I'll check with Chris where I'm at. I do like the fact that JP and Chris are sitting at the table with Fred. Fred's an early arriver, so maybe they can learn from him and not be late. You're wearing your pants, that's pretty good, I'm impressed with that. I did get money from Steve because he was late.
I was reading the bylaws.
In the car.
Mr. Sergeant at Arms?
Yeah.
I think that's another fine.
What? From the guy who's trying to go do.
In my dreams, I was reading the bylaws.
Yeah. Oh, now we changed it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Misinterpretation of his word.
Misinterpretation of
Here you
the
go.
rules, yeah,
I'm
definitely.
not gonna be, I'm, here you go. See what happens when I'm up.
You're still not Sergeant at Arms, and it's okay.
Gary, I believe the other people there were Mario and Bill Urban.
That's right.
They didn't wear name badges to that event, just like Gary is not wearing a name badge today.
Oh, no.
So we'll have to find Gary for that, we believe.
Also,
Do you know where the name badges are, Gary?
yes, I do.
Okay.
I was talking to people and okay. I also wanted to mention Jennifer and Matt Thomas, who are not Rotarians, but they're friends of mine, and I'm trying to get them to join Rotary, but the Thursday morning is a conflict for them. So they said, any activity that you're doing, let me know, and we'll come out. So they came out and helped too.
Well, thank you for that.
Yep.
Yeah, nice job.
Thank you.
I only got 2 R's over here at this table. I was hoping for 3 R's. We have a Ralph and a Rock, but I was hoping we'd get a 3rd R here. So next time, do a little more recruiting. We go with a 3 R fine. All right, if you could. Happy dollars. I think I saw Mike had some. Go ahead. I mean, Joe.
The other mic.
Yeah. Joe, you go first.
Do I go? All right. Well, these are really sad dollars. I came back on Tuesday from Florida to find out a good friend of mine has cancer in several parts of the body, so it doesn't look good. But I think the takeaway is enjoy every day possible, because you never know when Mother Nature throws at you. So,
Yeah.
thank you.
Sal.
So I have 2 different happy dollars. 2 happy dollars for my daughter, who made the varsity cheer squad at Emmaus High School for the 3rd year in a row as a junior, which I'm really thrilled for her. And 3 happy dollars because my partner here, Russ, is going to give the presentation. And he's also with Bethel Morningstar, and he's the sergeant at arms, which proves the age-old adage you have to be really good-looking to be the sergeant at arms. Now do I get
I want to know why your daughter's been a junior for 3 years.
No, no.
Go ahead.
So, it's 5, but 2 is actually, I think, towards a fine. So if your name is in print and nobody sees it, isn't that a fine? Like,
Yes.
if your picture is all over. So 2 of this, it's all for the same event, is for that, because I was not here last week. I was a keynote speaker at a board for ethics, whatever. It doesn't make a difference if it's solved. But the thing that I want to tell you about that was really cool about that is.
Time's up.
Is while doing this presentation and speaking to ethics in the workplace and in life and everything, I used our 4-way test as one of the alternative ways of gauging for yourself. I mean, I gave other metrics that people use. So I thought that was really cool to connect it all together, and it speaks to what I do believe about our 4-way test.
I'm only going to give 2, even though I had 2 things happen to me. One, I was on PBS News. I was on for the city of Bethlehem is trying to do their lighting, and I had gone to both meetings, and the lady asked to interview me afterward. It was kind of exciting. Then came to my store the next day, and I was like, whoa, no, I got too many pictures. And then the second one was I won a contest when I was in Atlanta for one of my vendors, Buyer's Choice. They sell Moeller, and I sell Moeller pyramids, and I won. So I had to have a picture taken, and they put that out there, and I circulated that also. But again, I had it professionally done for my internal professional photographer. So, but that was 2 times in like 1 week, so that was, I'm only giving you 2
Gary and I had the opportunity to go to RI in Hamburg, which was a wonderful experience. Honestly, I hope every Rotarian at some point gets to go to a Rotary International Convention. But if you get a chance and you look online, one of the most inspiring speeches was a young man who's a Rotaractor in the UK. His name is Chris Wells. It is on the Rotary, if you have that Rotary app, and you can find it there. If not, and you want to see it, just email me and I will forward it to you, because it is quite amazing and inspiring. And last but not least, Shelterbox, who I know we contribute a lot of money to, they have changed and they are adapting, and you might want to look them up to see the new way they are making things they don't just send boxes anymore because that doesn't fit everybody. So they send other ways to make shelters for people. So, and it was very interesting. And the other thing they are coordinating with Luminade, which Gary and I bought one. And it's a little light that works on solar and also can charge your phone that they give out, and they keep adapting that. So check them out. All those things are very interesting.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Johnny D.
Bittersweet today. My son's graduating kindergarten. It's been a long road, but 6 years ago he was born. Today he graduates, or he graduated on Friday, but it's last day, and then Friday morning we're heading out to the beach for a week. So.
Nice. Start putting those tuition dollars away.
All right, thank you, Don. Before we introduce the speaker, we had our, I don't know what you are, our Vice President-elect Steve Gould look at the bylaws. First of all, Rule 85 only has to do with attendance. It has nothing to do with voting at a meeting, so we cleared that up. Secondly, we need 1/3 of the membership present. We have 91 members. There's 34 here. We're good to go. We need 2/3 of the membership to vote on as an aye to pass it. And if we have less than 2/3, it doesn't get passed.
Move to approve.
Thank you very much.
Second.
Seconded by Gary Gorbach. Any discussion about the amendment that's been proposed? Yes, Woody?
Why do they only have to pay $120?
Well, we decided that, and I should say, when Cindy was talking to them, they're not gonna be at any of our meetings. They're not gonna really take anything away from our club. And we wanted to give them an introductory fee so that we could get the 10 members to do the satellite club. Does that answer your
Does this
question?
have to be approved by the union?
The superintendent already took it to the union, and the union has said it was fine. We already thought about that. Has nothing to do with Sal.
I was gonna say, they might be at some of our meetings, because in the summer, they can come in the summer.
They are welcome
It's
here in the
difficult for them to leave the school, I think, is what I heard.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's why their meetings are virtual. They only meet once a month, and they can do it by email if they want to. They can do it by Skype if they'd like to. They are required to do 2 major projects per year.
Just to further clarify, our cost for RI in the district, our cost is roughly $120. So their dues were set to roughly equal the cost that we would incur.
Yeah, so for Rotary International, the district of Rotary, and also for the Rotarian magazine, it's about $120 a year that we pay as Rotarians, and we're just asking them to do those costs up front.
Well, not so much a question, more of a statement. I think a lot of what we do involves students in the school district, so I think this is a good idea to have them involved with our club.
It's the first partnership of its kind that we know of in the United States. We're not sure of Rotary International. We brought it up with Whitehall Club on Tuesday. They're going to look into it with Whitehall because they have a really good relationship with their school district. It's one way to grow our membership. These people cannot be at our morning meetings. There's no way. They're in class right now. They can meet after school at 2:30. They can meet for a happy hour. And if they meet for a happy hour, we can certainly join them. Okay? So that's not, there are some good things, but I think it's really good to get more of a pulse on who we're trying to help, and that's the children of our community. Any other questions? All right. Now, how did Bert used to do this?
I would say all yays.
No. Bert used to do it a different way. I forget how he did it.
If you're a nay, stand up.
All those opposed, please raise your hand. Okay. Okay, one opposed. We're good. Any others? Two? Three? Any more opposed? That's fine. Okay. It passes. Thank you very much.
Can you hear me? So I have the pleasure of introducing our speaker, and I'll keep it short because we cut into his time a little bit. This is Russ Pacala. He's a member of American Institute of Architects. He's also happens to be my partner. I've known him longer than probably anybody in the profession. We went to school together, and now we're partners together. He's going to talk about a specific project I thought you'd be interested in, sustainable architecture, and how we make buildings energy efficient. If you don't believe that it can be done, I think we're going to change your mind here in a second. So I'm going to turn it over to Russ without further ado.
Is this working? This is working? Okay. All right, thank you very much for inviting me. Again, I'm a partner with Sal. I've known Sal since probably high school, and we went to college together, and we were roommates, so if you need any dirt on Sal, I got it. So we worked on this project for Millsboro University. It's a little unusual. It's an admissions building, so it's the first building that parents and students get invited to get a tour of the campus and understand what Millersville is about. So it's also a teaching tool, and it's their welcome center. So it's supposed to be inviting and used by the students as well. So with that, I'm going to talk a little bit about net zero. Let's see here. So what is net zero? And again, this is a fairly new concept the past maybe 10 years, where the building produces as much energy as it consumes over a year average. Because obviously sometimes we're talking about mostly solar energy in this context. So again, in the summer when the sun's up longer, we're generating more energy, and in the winter we're not. So it's a year average. Wrong direction. This has been a movement that's been going on, and like I said, for about 10 years. You can see that California has over 200 projects completed, and then the orange states in the Northeast here is kind of second in line with the number of projects. So the reason there's so many in California is like their school districts and other government buildings are actually mandating it. So a lot of their schools in California are net zero. I think most of you are probably familiar with the LEED, which is a green program where you get a building registered. So this is another program called the Living Building Challenge, and it's similar to LEED, but you can pick different credits. So the one avenue that we went down was, again, just being net zero. But the difference between LEED and Living Building Challenge is you actually have to prove after a year of occupation that you're actually creating more energy than you're using. Where in LEED, you just have to the engineers have to do the math to prove that you're saving X amount of energy. Again, at Millersville University, again, this is the first normal school or state school in the PASHE system. The president that was there at the time was very interested in sustainability, so he signed the American College President's climate commitment, and they're going to try to get to carbon neutral by 2040. But you can see by some of the statistics, they've got their energy. Every year they spend $2.5 million on energy for all the buildings. They've got over 2 million gross square foot of buildings that they have to maintain, and again, that's a lot of energy being used on campus. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the project itself, and then we'll get into some of the sustainability features. So the site was given to us here on James Street, and luckily James Street runs east and west, so we get a nice south exposure, a long south exposure on this side. This is the residential quad, and Mike said that you were in one of these residence halls here, right?
Yeah, it's gone now.
It's gone, right?
Yeah,
So
that one right there.
right, the old three-piece, that's an old residence hall. The new residence halls actually look like that. And then that's the dining hall. So the idea here was, how do you get the students from the residential quad up to Franklin Street is going to be the new sort of academic corridor. So we're actually thinking of driving the students sort of through or just around the building. We had come up with a couple different ideas. So some of the things that we had to take in consideration, again, like I said, James Street runs east-west, so the sun kind of comes around this way, and you can see by the buildings, these buildings are much higher, that they do cast a large shadow. We had to sort of place the building in a location where we could avoid the shadows. You can see in the wintertime at the winter solstice how far that shadow comes over onto our building. So we pushed it closer to the street for two reasons. One, to get out of the shadow, and the other was, again, when parents are coming to campus, they're given this address. It has to be visible from the street, and they should be able to, the building should be welcoming. This is the final site plan again. We didn't have to create any parking because there's an existing parking lot across the street, so they put signs up for guests, and they come across the street into the main entrances on the north side, and then the quad side is the south side of the building. The program itself was fairly simple. Again, the yellow area is a nice welcoming lobby area. It's a place to where the parents and the students can come in, have a casual place to sit and wait until the presentation starts, which is the presentations in the blue area. So all the public spaces are here. Admissions is on this side. Again, it's facing the street so they can see guests coming. The other was marketing, and then housing. So the housing offices were in here, taking care of the residence halls were off the quad. And then the green area was all the common spaces, the conference rooms, the little small kitchenette, student work areas, and those kind of things that aren't occupied by full-time staff. The outside design was, again, this is facing James Street, so a lot of glass in that lobby area, so they know where the front door is, a nice sign marking the building. We wanted that lobby to feel almost like an outdoor space, so we actually raised the roof up higher. There's a lot of natural light coming in, and we actually took some of the outside materials and wrapped them into the lobby, so it almost felt like if there was no glass there, you were walking between two separate buildings. And then the idea of the columns were supposed to be like tree limbs, and then the overhang around the lobby, it's actually a perforated metal panel. And the idea was to almost feel like you're underneath a canopy of trees. It has the light filters in, so that was some of the thoughts we had when we did the design. So in doing a net zero building, our engineers had to really dive into where are we using energy and how has the building really been used. When we were first brought on, we were told that it's an office building and it's going to be occupied from 8 to 5. And when we first started off, we were going to put solar panels on just one roof. And as we went through this process, we found out that the buildings used a lot more than that. We also looked at the different, here it's all the power that we're using, whether it's exterior lights, interior lights, plug loads, which are computers or anything that anybody plugs in, the HVAC system, and so forth. So it's just sort of a breakdown of where we thought the energy was going to be used. We looked at the schedule for the college year, when they're in the building, how often, when they have special events on weekends, how many weekends a year, those sort of things. So we really dove into really how often the building's used as opposed to just sort of using a rule of thumb. We did surveys. We talked about their comfort. In the wintertime, do they bring a space heater in? Do they put a sweater on? How do you make yourself comfortable in a space? So we're trying to get them away from the thought of, well, if it's wintertime, you should be wearing a sweater. You shouldn't bring a space heater in and plug it in. So we had some of those conversations. We talked about how often do they come in early? Do they stay late? Again, do they work on the weekends? And a lot of the ones on here that were driving some of the times up, especially like after 6, was the housing people. If there's an emergency on campus, they're in their office. Or if they're dealing with any kind of housing situation, they're there a lot more than just 8 to 5. So after we went through all those surveys, the end result was there was an additional almost 230 hours of additional time which added an increase of energy use of about almost 8%. So that changed our thinking and how we were going to, and how many additional solar panels we were going to actually put on the building. So some of the green features, and again, it's just not the solar panels, it has to do with the whole building itself. It's a little hard to see in the right, but on the right there's a rain garden outside, which is a place for the storm water off the roof to kind of have a chance to get any of the pollutants that happen, that come off of the rain or off the roof, and it goes into the soil before it goes into the storm water system. But Millersville is located close to the Susquehanna River, which is close to the Chesapeake Bay, so that whole watershed. So again, we want to be very conscious, and the college want to be very conscious about how we handle the rainwater. The other thing that we did, we could have just hooked the roof drains right into the storm sewer, but then we thought about, well, how do we use it as a teaching tool? So it's hard to see on this picture, but there's what we call a lamb's mouth. So the actual, because it's a flat roof, the roof leader comes out and the water spills out of the lamb's mouth, which is just a device to get the water away from the building. And then there's a runnel that leads into the rain garden. So when it's raining and you're walking by the building, the students see how much water's coming off the roof and they get an idea. On the sloped lobby roof, we actually created a very large gutter on the south end because it all slopes, it's a monoslope, it slopes one direction, and we created a rain chime device there. So that, again, it's the idea is supposed to, the water's supposed to splash around, so there's holes at the end of the gutter. They go into those little bells, which are supposed to look like cattails sticking up. Those are just rebars, and we welded little leaves on them that are metal leaves, and the water is supposed to splash down, goes into the runnel, goes into the rain garden. So, and they also sort of, if it's windy enough, they actually clang together, so we call it a rain chime. Again, there's we figured that this building is probably 60% more efficient than the other buildings on campus, so I don't know, I'll go through a few of the items that are particular. So the one thing was we wanted to add extra insulation, so we have about 38% more insulation than by code. One way we did that was on the exterior wall, we have continuous insulation. So it's a stud wall with bad insulation in it, but on the outside we have additional 3 inches of rigid insulation that covers the studs and anywhere else that you would have some transmission of cool or hot. And energy efficient windows, and then in particular we documented places we knew were always tough to insulate, so we actually had details on our documents calling out for spray insulation in particular areas. The glass on the south side, we put shading devices, so on the large glass areas we actually have horizontal fins fairly close together, so you still have the views, but blocks direct sunlight, especially in the summertime. Again, the large overhang on the lobby area, again, to cut the sun out. And then on the punched windows, we also have an exterior shade. The one thing it's hard to see on the picture right here, though, but in the lobby area, some of this glass is actually clear glass, and the other glass is what we call a fritted glass. There's little dots in it. And if you get close enough to it, you see it, but you step away, you just sort of, your eyes just look through it. But those dots cut down the solar gain by as much as 45% in some aspects. So we have different patterns there. It's hard to see in the picture, but that's another feature. One thing with the Living Building Challenge is we could not burn any fossil fuel. So what we ended up deciding on was an all-electric system, but it's a geothermal system. So it's a simple VAV air distribution system that any mechanical guy can work on. The thing that's different, obviously, is the well field. So we planned for 32 well fields, but when we drilled the wells, the soil that was in the soil and rock that was below it was very good, so we only had to do 20 wells, so we saved a little bit of energy there. The different type of solar panels that we use, so there's basically 4 types. The east roof and the west roof are the same sort of panels. And the thing that's a little different here is if you notice, the panels are put together this way. They're not facing south. South is actually the main roof in the middle is facing south, but when you put a panel facing south, it creates a shadow till you get to the next panel. So we actually got more solar panels on the roof by putting them east and west. So, but they're not as efficient. The most efficient way is they're facing south, but because of that shadow, we actually are creating more energy with this sort of a layout. So that's something I learned on this project. So you have those solar panels. The ones on the lobby roof are a different solar panel, and then actually the black, where we would normally have spandrel glass because that's above the floor line. This is the clear glass that goes into the space, but above and below on the south side, the glass panels that we use actually have filament in it that also gain solar energy from. So they're designing all kind of big glass office buildings where they're using that kind of solar technology for the glass. Yes?
Where did the electrical panels come from? Where were they manufactured?
The glass panels are actually manufactured in Spain.
Spain, okay.
Yeah. The solar panels, I'm not sure where they're manufactured. And then the last piece was a solar tracker. So this is a dual axis. So it actually follows the sun and it tips to keep following the sun, so that those panels are very efficient. And again, this was sort of belts and suspenders. We had calculated that we had enough energy with this, but as a teaching tool, when you're walking by this building, you can't even see the solar panels on the roof. So the idea of adding this as another belt and suspender to make sure we made our net zero, our energy goals, was to add the tracker. Yes?
You clearly have a ton of solar panels there.
Yes.
How much energy does those, like on a sunny day like we had the last 2 days, will that power all the lights for a day? Like how much energy is that actually? I don't mean kilowatts, like in actual practical energy use.
Well, on a summer day, we're producing more energy than we're using. So I have some graphs. I don't know exactly what the amount of kilowatts are. There's some diagrams here. My engineers had some of these slides are what my engineers talked to. But
so what you're saying, on a day like we had yesterday or the day before, that whole building could run if you shut the power off. Just the solar panels would run. No kidding.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
So again, this is just a chart showing that east roof and the west roof, is probably over 60% of the energy. The center roof is 26%. Now the solar glass is only 4%, and the tracker is only 6%. So just to give you an idea, but obviously the more solar panels you have, the more energy you're going to be producing. Here are our calculations getting net zero. So I don't know if that answers your questions, but we're calculating how much energy, kilowatt hours we're going to consume, and then how much we're using by each one of those different devices. And then we were planning on a surplus of 473 kilowatt hours. Again, as I said, this building is a teaching tool. Some of the hidden things that you don't see is to understand where the plug loads are, the light loads, and the HVAC loads. We had put in a lot of metering, and we had to circuit the building a specific way. So we spent money doing that so that they could monitor it. The students could use the information which is online and do the study, or the coordination officer at Millersville can actually pit one side of the office against the other side to see if they can save more energy. So we had added those kind of elements in as a teaching tool. This is what we call the dashboard, which is in the lobby area. So you can go up to any one of those TV, it's touchscreen, and you can go and see actually that day how much solar energy is being provided. So on a cloudy day, you can go up there and see what kind of energy at noon is being provided. If it's a sunny day, they can go in there and look at it. The other thing the panels were, if you're a student or a parent coming to the college, you can touch another button and it talks about Millersville University. If you're interested in sports, you can pull up all the sports and information. So it's a dual kind of information area. That's just what the dashboard, one of the dashboard images looks like with regard to the geothermal system, or we put well caps out in the area, so when the students walk by, they see these well caps but gives you all kind of information. So where do we stand? So this building was completed last year, about this time, and we've been running calculations on it since. The last one we had was in February that I got from the university. But you can see for the mechanical unit, we're actually doing pretty well. The orange is the actual use, and what we modeled was this. So we're using a little bit more energy actually than we modeled. You can see the big energy hog is the lobby, all glass. It's sort of a big area, a lot of volume. So that is the energy hog, and we knew that going in, but we needed that large space for that surge area. So when presentations are done, there's a place to go. The plug load, surprisingly, the actual loads are a lot lower than we anticipated. So that was a good sign that the coordination officer at Millersville did a good job making sure that, number one, they purchase energy efficient computers and other appliances, copiers, whatever, and also that the occupants aren't bringing in space heaters and fans and so forth. Lighting, again, I'll shout out to Joe Parks, helped us on this with regard to the lighting at Millersville, and it's all LED lighting, and you can see the actual lighting loads are a lot lower. So again, we have a lot of natural light coming into the building, so that helps as well. Again, the shared space, which was in the middle of the building, which that's no natural light, is using a lot of light, and the lobby area, again, I think that has a lot of light just because of how far the light has to travel. Total consumption, again, we were modeling that, and we're using a lot less energy and producing energy. Again, you can see that we're producing a lot more energy than we modeled last summer anyway. And again, in the winter time, you're going to find that we're not producing as much energy as we're using. So net energy gain, again, summer months, we're gaining, we're using a lot more energy than we're using. In the winter months, we're not as much. So on that average, again, we're going to be, right now I think we're tracking it somewhere about 20% over, we have extra energy use. Yes?
The question was, the overage, does that go back into the grid?
Yeah, it goes back into the grid.
That's part of the calculation.
Yeah. At this point, it's one of the, we're just hooked to the grid. There's no batteries. There's no way to store. That's a lot more money. So it just goes back. We sell it back to the utility companies. Yes.
The winter time is primarily for heating. I mean, is that the big energy hog to heat the space?
Well, it's both. Even in the summer is the air conditioning. So it's an electric system. So whether it's heat or air conditioning, it's.
I mean, in the summer you're going from 90 degrees to 70 degrees. In the winter you're going from 30 degrees to 80 degrees.
Right.
You know, there's a much bigger gap.
Yeah, I would imagine the way we're heating the air probably costs more than cooling it. Yeah. So overall, the sustainable features is, we probably spent getting close to $1 million on a $7 million project. So we're calculating it's about an additional 12% for this particular building. But again, that's high because again, we're using it as a teaching tool. We added a lot of features on this building that we might not have if we weren't using it as a teaching tool. So it was hard to kind of decipher all of that information, but that gives you a general idea of where we are budget-wise. And then just a couple of slides. These are the pictures. Again, this is the south side. Again, it's hard to see the fritted glass, but there's the perforated panel and the PV tracker. That's the new residence hall that casts the shadow on that side of the building. The lobby space.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
On the usage versus generation, obviously you're not generating any power at night. So are those bar graphs just for the daytime?
No, it's for a 24-hour period. So you're using energy at night for night lighting or whatever's still plugged in.
You're not generating energy.
Correct.
So you have to generate enough excess energy during the day so it's out there, so that at night you're essentially pulling it back from the power company or
Correct.
whatever? Okay.
So you have to generate enough. You have to generate enough if the sun's up for 12 hours, you have to generate enough energy to offset for 24 hours.
Yes. So
yes.
it goes out